I'm at my sister's machine because hers is ready for its first dry check, and a viewer just asked, how much power do I use up during that dry check? So we will reset her power meter when we put this back in. So that would be like if it were done right now and was taking it out and just trusting that we could guess whether or not it was dry instead of doing the actual dry check, we would be done now. Because the machine says it's done. In fact, it said it was done a few hours ago. We added a little bit more time because we weren't here when it's finished, so it got too cold. Now it's back up to temperature. We'll take them out. I'll do the weight checks and then put them back in for that 2-hour dry check, and we'll see how much power it uses during that 2 hours. The maximum amount of power it could use would be about 2.4 kilowatt hours, I think, in 2 hours, because I think the maximum draw on hers is about 1200 watts. And that's with the cooling unit running, the vacuum pump running, and all the heaters running on the trays. So we'll bypass the rest of her time. I'm just using the down arrow. Then it says process complete. We'll open the drain valve and get them out and check them. And for this, it doesn't really matter to us what the weights are. We just want to know what these next 2 hours cost in electricity. In fact, we would be shutting it off now, so let's restart the meter now. And her meter wasn't set at the beginning anyway, so I had reset it a little while ago. So I'll hit the reset button. It'll go back. Now this will be the current draw right now. So it's using 305 watts currently. So that's just the cooling unit. Now we can get this open and tray 1. And on hers, I have this piece of pad stuff blocking any air that might be coming off of her machine that might lift it and give a faulty reading. So 771. Okay, tray 2. And her coldest thermometer right now says about 100 degrees or just below. 770. And they were about 30 or 40 degrees. That's why we rewarmed it to make sure. Okay, tray 3. All right, now we'll get those closed back up and close the drain valve. I'll get the camera on the power meter so we can see how it acts as it restarts. Of course, I'll be adding more dry time. Well, not pretty, but it shows the numbers. So it's currently using about 316, 317 watts, somewhere around there. Now I'll press more dry time. Continue, make sure it did close the valve, it did. Okay, so this will be, the vacuum pump will be coming on. There it goes. And it peaks at a little over 500. And 524 right now. And I'm setting her timer for 2.5 hours in case she's not ready for it in 2 hours. You can always add more time. Now, when the pressure starts to get lower, the amount of power should drop. Currently at about 580. Dropping slightly. Okay, 1.5 minutes. It's still over 2,500, so it hasn't started to drop. But the power usage is still dropping because, of course, there's less air pressure in there, so it doesn't have to work as hard. Now down to 513. It's one of the nice things about this newer machine is on mine, it would turn on the vacuum pump and the heaters right at the beginning. So it'd be drawing 1,350 watts for a while. Time's slow when you're staring at the clock. Oh, it's already started to drop. So that was 2:30, just under 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and now it's below 2,500. And power is now down to 490. Okay, so there's the time and pressure. And that's counting down from 2:30, so 2 hours, 30 minutes. So it's 3.5 minutes so far. And it's down to 1,000 millitorr. Okay, I'll go back to the power meter. So we'll be there when it gets to 500. And I'm going to change this where it says cost to kilowatt hours, because we never set the cost in it, so it's just the kilowatt hours being used. And there we go. Now the heater's just turned back on. It went all the way down to 430 before the heater's turned on. Now it's drawing 1207 watts. And as I said, on mine, it turns on everything when you start the redry. And so it's about 1350 immediately. This one, because it holds off for a while before it turns on the heaters, which is a much better plan, it doesn't have that higher spike. So the highest I've ever seen on here is about 1250. So it's a full 100 watts or even 200 watts lower than mine. Mine might be as high as 14 something for a few seconds when it turns everything on. Okay. We'll come back and see this in a couple hours and check the power usage. It's actually been just about 3 hours, because I gave it 2.5 hours, and I thought, well, because I was going to give it the 2 hours, but I gave it 2.5 to make sure we could make it back. Well, I still wasn't back, so my sister gave it another half hour, and it's down to just about the last minute. So that's going to be stopping in a minute. We'll get the power usage right now, and then she can have it all back and take care of her dry check. And if it's not dry, if it lost weight during that time, she'll put it back in so it'll have another one of these cycles. But we'll get our information and be out of here. So it's used 1.436 kilowatt hours, which in our area would be about 14 cents, 15 cents. Because no, it's up higher, it might be 20 cents now. Anyway, it's not too bad. And you've already spent hours of electricity. You've spent all the time for all the money for the food, all the bags and everything. Make sure it's dry. Don't skimp on the 1.5 kilowatt hours and just hope it's dry. So it says it's complete, and she'll take over the rest of the process. If this had been my machine, it would have already been cooling for 15 minutes before it said it's done, which means I probably would have had to rewarm to make sure it's warm enough. Okay, if you have any other questions about that, please feel free to ask, put it in the comments. Thanks.